Yo, welcome to the show. I'm Gunnar Olson here, as always, with Thrifty Traveler executive editor Kyle Potter. But today we have two very special guests. They're two-thirds of the Points Talk squad, formerly Travel Mom Squad. They're prolific award travelers, some of the smartest people in points and miles, and they're here to make us a lot smarter this week. It's Jess Field and Alex Payne. Alex and Jess, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you guys on today. I have to start with a question. I need to find something out. So to start out, I want to bring up who isn't here today. It's the other third of the Points Talk squad, and that is Pam. Pam is Alex's mom and a Points and Miles aficionado. So this question, I guess, is for you, Kyle and Jess. I don't know what the Points and Miles literacy of your parents is like, but for both of my parents, they're hard pressed to pull up a mobile boarding pass. And I have never asked them to transfer points or anything like that. Let's talk about the proficiency of your parents first. Kyle, I'll start with you.
No, can we take a second to put Gunnar Olson Sr. on blast for his view of Marriott points?
Oh gosh. Okay, I'll ask you in a second. But my dad the other day, we're trying to plan a trip to go see my little brother at college in Michigan. And he gives me his Marriott login, and he said, "I'm flush with Marriott points. Like I've been earning Marriott points for years. I'm ready. Like let's just book a hotel in East Lansing so you can go visit your little brother at Michigan State." And I pulled up his account, and he had 15,000 Marriott points in there. And I had to call him and be like, "Dad, you don't have enough points for one single night anywhere in the world. What are you doing?" So flush with Marriott points, he was not. Jess, what is your experience with your parents and points and miles?
My mom is actually a very willing player. I call her my player three. She is very willing to travel with me, and she's very willing to open cards, but I handle everything. So like I have all her bank login information. I have her social security number, and she just gives me the green light, and I apply for cards for her. I transfer her points and miles. I book her trips. And so she's willing, but like if you asked her to do it, she would have zero clue what to do or where to start.
That's pretty awesome. I don't know what's better. Is that the better scenario than what you have, Alex? How awesome is it to have kind of close family involved in this game and hobby?
You know what? I didn't realize, my mom started doing this the same time I did. So I've never known any different. But listening to your stories, I'm feeling pretty fortunate because the nice thing is I can treat my mom like she's still my mom, like a little kid, like, "Hey, mom, like, what should I do?" Or like, "Hey, mom, we're going on this trip." And she can kind of still take care of it. So I can still be the kid. So it's pretty nice.
I will just say, Jess, you calling your mom player three is much more diplomatic than how many people in the Thrifty Traveler office talk about their spouses or parents, which is there's an informal name called the Points Mule, which is just one of your blood relatives who becomes a means to earn additional points. So player three is a lot nicer.
Everyone in my family is a points mule. So if I called them all that, then I wouldn't have a way to differentiate them. So they have to each have a number.
All right, well then I guess we're all points shepherds then, taking our families.
You don't want us talking about agriculture. Nobody wants us talking about agriculture on this pot.
That's awesome. All right, let's get into it. Today on the show, we're talking with the Points Talk squad about their new name, their excellent travel content, and how they're able to earn and spend points and miles as a family. And then Alex and Jess are going to help me mentally prepare for my first trip abroad with an infant. Whew. All that and more. Welcome back to the Thrifty Traveler podcast. All right, welcome back. It's time for something hot and something cold. It's the good and bad news out there for travelers from the past week. And we'll start with something hot, which as always is brought to you by Thrifty Traveler Premium. Join the best flight deal alert service out there. Use TT Pod for $20 off your first year of premium so you can travel more for less in 2026. Okay, something hot is the new Points Talk squad. So for years, you all were known as Travel Mom Squad. You've undergone a bit of a rebrand lately. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so this was not a planned rebrand. We'll start with that because we actually did a rebrand about 2 years ago. So we weren't thrilled to do this again, but we really wanted to legally own our name. And this was the only way that we could do that. We already have a trademark for Points Talk, which is the name of our podcast. And so it was just a natural fit to, be Points Talk Squad. So we're excited about it. And yeah, we're really excited about it because we love the podcast and we get to have everybody still be part of the squad.
Yeah, that's awesome. So can you tell us about how your site started and how you all started doing this together in the first place?
Yeah, so I started about, I think it's been 7-8 years now, around that. And I just really felt a need for beginner content, especially directed towards families and moms. And that was really what gave me the push to get started in this. And then what was it? How long ago was it that you came along, Jess?
It was just summer 2022, so 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's gone by really fast. So I got started. My mom was traveling way more than me because I at the time had a bunch of young kids. My mom previously was an extreme couponer and she was writing for a popular blog. So it was a really natural fit. Like, oh, you use extreme coupon? Well, this is extreme couponing on steroids. So that's going to be a lot cooler, getting business class flights than toothpaste. So I knew when I told her about it, like she was going to be all in. If anybody has heard my mom, they know that she's like a go big or go home kind of person. A little OCD and just goes all in on everything that she does. And so she dropped the couponing pretty quick and jumped on to the points and miles. So I got her involved with it and she started working with me. And then in 2022, we brought Jess on. Jess, do you want to kind of share about that?
Yeah, so I had started, it was like during the pandemic, I had started my own, Instagram account about points and miles because I've been doing it since 2015 and I was just depressed about not being able to travel or like go to the gym, which were my two favorite things to do. And so I was like, I'll just start an Instagram account. So I did that and then became friends with Alex. Like we literally met on Instagram and I think Pam is the one, it was Pam's idea. She was like, Jess is killing it. We're killing it. Like we should come together and sort of just take it over, like blow it up. We had really similar travel styles, really similar audiences. And so, yeah, they reached out to me. We came to an agreement and I quit my job like a month later.
Wow, that's amazing.
To do this full time.
We're obviously going to talk a lot about family travel, which is really what you all specialize in, and which Gunnar hopes to at some point soon. We in general, I mean, we just can't do what you guys do at the scale that you guys do in specializing the things that you talk about for family, but also on behalf of yet another podcast of two white men in a room. How important is it to you to like bring more of a female perspective into the world of travel and points and miles on social media? Because there just isn't a lot of it.
I think that was the why for both of us independently, like before we merged together. And because the thing is, women make, I think, between 80 and 85% of travel decisions. And so it's only fair that they're the ones who are involved in the process too. And I think that I know when I got started, there were very few women in the space, and it was mostly business travelers, single men who, were flying business class with their champagne, and that was it, And I was like, okay, there's got to be a way for this information to be a little bit more relatable for women and families. And so I think we kind of independently did that, and then we came together, and that's been a huge part of our mission. And not even just families, but like, hey, moms deserve girls trips too. Moms deserve to take a solo trip too. You don't have to have young kids. A lot of our followers are Pam's age and they're moms, but their kids are grown and out of the house, And so it's just trying to reach all different generations and different types of people than I think we were used to seeing when we first got started.
Yeah, I think I can speak for both of us when I say you're doing a great job at it. We really admire your perspective, and especially the way on social media you talk about annual fees and credit cards and how to make that money back and how to get the most out of those things. I think you talk about those things in a really, really good way on social media. Anything else, Kyle?
Alex, I'm curious, as you've been doing this for years now, thinking about how male dominated these conversations were probably when you first started, do you feel like that's started to change? And if so, what role do you think Points Talk Squad, formerly Travel Mom Squad, has played in that?
I think it's definitely changed. There's, especially in the social media space, we see so many more people teaching people how to do this and a lot more moms. And that's been really cool for us to see. I think we were fortunate that we got in a little earlier than I think our timing was really great. But it is really fun to see. We've made a lot of really good friends through social media. We've met up with different women and moms who are also teaching people how to do this. And that's been really, really cool and fun to see because that just wasn't around at all when we started this. So I'd like to think that we have some influence in that and that we're, pioneering it a little bit. I don't know. I don't want to take credit for that, but it'd be pretty cool if that was the case.
I think you can give yourself some credit. I think that's
Well,
that's a
thank
safe.
you.
It's a safe pat on the back.
Yeah, we'll
Thank you.
say it. We'll say it for you. This conversation has gotten way too positive, and I want to bog it down by taking us to something cold. So we all know that November was pretty trying for the airlines. Thanksgiving
was.
week went okay despite some bad weather, it looked like. But the holidays and winter travel season are always tough in the skies, especially for delays and cancellations. And when you're traveling with a family, the stakes are a lot higher, as I've learned on a 4-hour delay at Denver on Saturday afternoon. What are some of your tips, Alex and Jess, for surviving delays when traveling with your family?
I think my big one is just realizing a lot of it's out of your control and just like it is what it is and trying not to get frustrated. I think that's the big thing. And that is very hard to do when you're traveling with 4 little kids and they're like, are we done? How long are we going to be sitting on this plane? I think one of the worst things is sitting on the tarmac for hours with your kids. That is like a parent's nightmare, especially if you have a toddler. I'm fortunate that we're in the space now. My youngest is 5. And I think when he turned about 3, it was like, oh, we can do this now. This isn't like as hard as it used to be. But I think for me, that's the biggest thing is just realizing, hey, like I need to stay calm because they're kind of looking to me for how to handle this situation. If mom and dad are all frazzled, your kids are going to be frazzled too, and they're going to be stressed. They're going to feed off of that. So I think that's my biggest thing is just staying as calm as I can when it's out of my control. Like with the delays and stuff. Obviously canceled flights, you're going to like need to scramble and try to figure things out, but that's kind of my big thing is just trying to stay calm as much as I can.
For me, it's having credit cards that get me into a lounge if there is a delay. Like you said, you were at Denver. All right, whipping out my Amex Platinum, going to the Centurion Lounge, whipping out my Capital One Venture X, going to the Venture Lounge. I think having those credit cards that give you lounge access can really come in clutch when there is a delay, especially a big one. I also think just traveling on points and miles gives me peace of mind for those kind of scenarios because not even just around the holidays, when you have kids, we've had so many times where we have to cancel a trip the day we were supposed to leave because my daughter got the flu or my husband has a stomach bug that my daughter brought home from daycare. It's like, it's so unpredictable when small humans are involved that, I was able to call the hotel and say, I'm so sorry, my daughter just tested positive for the flu. And it was a Hyatt and they were so great. And they were like, no problem. We redeposited the points into your account. And so I think, charging the taxes and fees to those credit cards for the protections, booking on points and being able to get them back if something goes wrong gives me so much peace of mind as a mom in those situations.
Those are all really, really good tips. I know the Capital One Lounge at Denver came in very, very handy for us for a few hours there. The only lounge that didn't have a line out the door, and usually with Capital One lounges, they do have.
Denver's a good place to be stranded if you're going to be stranded. You've got some good options there.
That's true. That's very true. Well, thank you for those tips. Those are going into my toolbox as well as I learn to navigate more of these delays that I'm sure are going to pop up in this messy winter that we have ahead. Anything else?
So how is reasoning with your 5-month-old Emery about to just beware of delays and cancellations? How does she respond to that?
Yeah, my lectures are falling really flat with Emery so far.
I mean, when you've got a little one like that, you're kind of just in survival mode. It really is.
There's really no point in even projecting forward, it's just every
No.
moment is just I'm fighting for that next minute, and
That's
luckily
when you tell yourself, I'm never going to see these people again. It's going to be fine.
That's right. Actually, at that Capital One Lounge, they have specific family areas, and when we walked in, they walked us like right to a big nice table and gave us lots of space. So it was actually very nice.
That is another thing with traveling with little kids is you do get some nice perks. You're going to see like you get to move to the front of lines. Like people treat you good when you've got little kids.
That's true. That's true. The more tired I look, the better treatment I get as I walk around. So that's awesome. Okay, I have a ton more questions for you both about traveling with families and more specifically how to earn and redeem points as a family. But first, we want to take a quick break. All right, so let me get this straight. It's almost 2026 and you're still paying rent without Bilt? We can't have that. Bilt is the loyalty program for renters that rewards you for your biggest monthly expense, rent. Let me explain. With Bilt, every rent payment earns you points that can be used towards flights, hotels, Lyft rides, Amazon purchases, fitness classes, and more. And when you pay rent through Bilt, you unlock access to exclusive benefits from a network of more than 45,000 merchants. You just link your credit cards, spend at your favorite local spots, earn Bilt points on top of your regular card rewards, and get one step closer to that trip you wanted to take. Personally, I redeem my points for, you guessed it, travel. I've been stacking up Alaska miles for some business class flights to Europe that I'm eyeing, and it's always useful to transfer points to Virgin and Flying Blue to book cheap Delta flights too. Kyle, what Bilt transfer partners intrigue you?
I mean, I will never say no to the ability to get more Hyatt points, but I'm thinking most about one of Bilt's newest transfer partners, Japan Airlines, because this is the only transfer partner where it's one-to-one. So 50,000 Bilt points is 50,000 Japan Airlines mileage bank miles, and that's almost enough for a one-way business class seat to Japan. So that's what I'm thinking about. And that is honestly why Bilt points have been ranked the most valuable point currency by the Points Guy. And they just announced Bilt Cash, a way to unlock even more value from Bilt's partners. It's simple. Paying rent is better with Bilt. Earn rewards and finally get something back for being a renter. Join the loyalty program for renters at joinbilt.com/thrifty. That's joinbilt.com/thrifty. Make sure to use that URL so they know we sent you.
All right, back to the show. All right, it's time for the Extra Mile, where we dig a little deeper on an important travel topic. And this week, I have a few things we need to talk to Alex and Jess about, including an extremely selfish exercise where I'm going to mine their expertise for help with my first Europe trip with an infant that's coming up in just a few days. So first, I wanted to start just talking about family travel and infant travel in general. Alex and Jess, what are some of the kind of core truths to you guys about family travel?
Do you know what's one of our biggest pet peeves, what we see, is when we see people on like social media saying you don't need very many cards to earn a lot of points. And we are like, well, clearly you're a single man sharing this because we've got 4 kids. Like Jess has a family of 6 when she includes her stepkids. I've got 4 kids. When you have a big family, you're booking for 6 people, you're going to need a lot of points. So you're going to be opening a lot more cards. So that's a big thing. Like if you're a family, I just don't think you get, if you want to travel a lot, you don't really get by with just opening 1 or 2 cards a year.
My least favorite thing is from that same crowd of saying like, oh, just the Chase Sapphire Preferred and you're going to travel, 3 times a year in business class to Europe when you know that person has like 7 Chase Ink cards and they're just not talking about it.
100%. Yeah.
So what else, obviously, when you're opening a lot more cards to earn a lot more points, any other core truths that you have for traveling as a big family?
I think on the plus side, the bigger your family, the more expenses you're going to have, and the easier it's going to be for you to meet those minimum spends. And so a lot of times families can open the cards with the bigger minimum spends and hit those spends a lot easier than someone who is just a single guy who maybe can't hit those. And so there is a silver lining to needing all those points and miles. I also think that it gets harder. Like I know, Gunnar, I think you said your daughter is 6 months old. And so you're in kind of a sweet spot of not having to adhere to any sort of school schedule. You have a lot of flexibility with when you can travel. Once you're, if you are planning to send your kids to a traditional school, Alex and I, both of our kids are in public school. And so we kind of have to adhere to the school schedule. And when that is the case, once they start kindergarten, it's a lot of planning around spring break, summer, and holiday breaks. And those are the most popular times for everyone to travel, which means if you want to redeem your points and miles, you have to book really early. And so that is just something to be mindful of. If you want to travel for spring break, well, so does the rest of the country. And so you are going to have to really earn those points far in advance so that you can redeem them and get the redemption that you want for spring break.
Yeah, it's such a critical point, and we do a lot of spring break coverage things here at Thrifty Traveler. We like to write about when is the best time to book your spring break trip, and unfortunately, I think most people are Googling that right around the end of January, which is you're not putting yourself in the driver's seat when you're doing that. But we're talking about the availability we see starting May and June the year before about how to book the best spring break trip. And our coworker Nick has several kids of his own, and he's always kind of battling for spring break flights every year. And so he's always keeping that top of mind for us. But fighting around the school calendar can be tough, but points and miles is obviously the key.
Yeah. One thing that I usually do with like spring break with my kids is I'm fine if they miss a day or two. So what we'll usually do is come home on a Monday after spring break. The flights are usually way cheaper, like fewer points. So that's another little tip for people if you're okay with your kids missing a day of school. I mean, young elementary kids, that's the time to miss it. It's when they get like to high school or junior high. Like my oldest is in an advanced math class right now, and it's kind of rough for him if he misses school. So take advantage when your kids are little. So Gunnar, when she's in elementary, you keep going on those trips.
You have a while. You've got like
You've got
like a good like 6 or 7 years to have some flexibility in your schedule before you have to really buckle down.
Are we officially at the point where this has transitioned away from a podcast and into a therapy session for Gunnar about what's ahead?
Everything's going to be okay. Okay, so when you're earning these points and miles that fuel these adventures, what kinds of points are you focusing on? What are the points and miles that take your family's places?
100% flexible points, transferable points. That is where we really, really focus on. And I think the reason is we have large families, like we mentioned, and sometimes you're not going to find, if I'm trying to book all of these tickets, I might have to work with some different airline partners to find the flights for all of us. And so it's important to have a nice stash. I mean, we love them all. Like we've got lots of Chase, Ultimate Rewards. We've got Amex membership rewards, Capital One. We are huge Hyatt people. I assume you guys are as well, who's not in the points world. And so that's like huge for us, is earning all the Chase Ultimate Rewards we can for Hyatt stays, easy domestic flights options for families. I think you guys probably agree, like that's the most beginner friendly for most people and for families is starting with Chase. But we love Amex for people who are wanting to travel on premium airlines or looking to travel internationally. I will say for us, this is probably an unpopular opinion, but we think Capital One is a really great option for families for covering purchases, depending on what your travel goals are. Most people in points and miles are like, oh, never do that. That's a terrible use of your points. But a lot of families aren't looking to take their kids to Europe. That's not like a super common thing. Most families are like, hey, we want to take our family to Disneyland. How can we do that for cheap? And so Capital One can really be really great for specific uses for families. So I'd say those are our like main points that we focus on. Jess, did I miss anything?
We are also huge fans of the Southwest Companion Pass.
Yes.
Just because when you've got like this in 2026, my husband and I are both going to have the companion pass. And so when you have a family of 6 and you can fly 2 people for just the taxes and fees, that is huge to be able to do that. So I was actually telling my daughter, she's 12, I said, okay, for Christmas next year, we have to go somewhere that Southwest flies because we're going to have 2 companion passes. And she said, I want to go to Alaska. And I was like, I don't think they fly there. Like choose somewhere else. Like, and I'm not going to Alaska in December. So choose somewhere else.
And even if they do, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of where should we go that Southwest flies in our household?
Yeah.
I'm curious
Same with us.
I'm curious, Jess, with all the changes that have been made to Southwest, has that changed the way that your family thinks about them as an option to fly? Or where were you at on the changes they made?
Actually, my husband is more willing to fly them now because of the assigned seating. He was one of the people who, anytime I said we were flying Southwest, he was just grumble because of, having to check in at 24 hours. And I was like, I'm the one doing it. I agree with you. It's not my favorite thing, but like, you're not doing anything. So I think he's actually more willing to fly Southwest now that we can choose our seats. And we're kind of team carry-on only. So like the free checked bags was never a huge selling point for us, but as a credit card holder, you still get free checked bags. So I think he's more willing to fly them now. And as long as they have the companion pass, I will be loyal to Southwest.
I think Southwest is a perfect example of like how you two think differently about travel and points and miles than maybe the average person who is talking into a microphone about these things. Mm-hmm. So beyond Southwest and the companion pass, whether it's, like the ability to easily share Capital One miles between accounts, or an award program that is going to have enough seats for your whole family versus, me just worrying about the 2 seats for my wife and I. What are like 1 or 2 for each of you different programs or features that are like, yes, this is tailor-made for families?
I think Flying Blue is an obvious one, just because they have the 25% off award tickets for ages 2 to 11. That's one that, we use Flying Blue all the time.
Yeah, I would say that's like, I've booked more Flying Blue for international travel than any other airline or reward program.
And there are also often transfer bonuses to Flying Blue. That's one that we see come up a lot. And so, if you're talking like 25,000 points in economy for an adult, even less if you have a child 2 to 11, and then you're getting a transfer bonus on top of that, one welcome offer on a card could be enough to get an entire family to Europe with Flying Blue. And so that's one that we use a lot for international travel.
Yeah, one that's really big for me is Virgin Atlantic, and they have some really awesome transfer bonuses too. I have a sister that lives in London, and so we've taken the kids back there to visit their cousins. We're actually headed back there this summer. And one, you can find some really low rates in general with Virgin Atlantic. You will have to pay the higher taxes and fees, but when you think about flying 6 people and paying that low in miles, I'm trying to remember, I think it was 17,500 for premium economy flights from Boston to London, but then there was a transfer bonus. So I don't even remember what we got it down to. I think it was maybe around like 13,000 points, something crazy like that for premium economy. And I'm like, this will be great. Because, when you have 6 people flying business class, we have not done that with our kids yet. Like we've done where we've upgraded maybe 1 or 2 of us for cash. We've done that, but it's usually pretty much only economy. And so being able to be in premium economy, like, oh, the kids are going to think this is like, we're living the high life in premium economy and we got it so cheap. The other thing that I love too is flying home from London. We're actually flying Delta, but I booked it through Virgin Atlantic and I think it's a 20,000 point flight from London all the way to Salt Lake direct flight. And that's the other thing, when you're traveling with kids, direct flights are so nice, especially when you're going to Europe like that. And so that's something we do quite a bit, is because Salt Lake is a Delta hub. And so I really like to utilize Flying Blue and Virgin Atlantic for our family's flights when we're going internationally, and try to find those Delta flights that I can book through those other airlines. And then if there's a transfer bonus, that's just, icing on the cake.
Okay, so I have to ask, in those situations where one or two of you upgrade, do either
Yeah.
of you play the who earned all these points? Yeah, I'll be taking that upgrade. Have you guys ever played that with your spouses?
Do you know what? I have not. My husband, I think he's really nice, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you should upgrade. You should go sit up there and take one of the kids." Like, he's very like, "You earned the points. You work hard. You go enjoy business class. I'll stay back with the kids." He doesn't even like ask. I'm like, "We could ask the flight attendant if we could switch." He's like, "No, it's fine. You just enjoy it. Get a good night's rest." I'm like, "All right. Don't have to tell me twice."
Mine is not that nice, but we still haven't encountered it because it's usually just both of us. And so like there were 4 of us who flew to Japan for spring break this year. And my husband and I were able to score first class on Japan Airlines, but there was only 2. And so we sat in first class, and our daughters, who are 12 and like 20 something. So it's not like I'm putting 4-year-olds in premium economy, but they were in premium economy, which I was like, hey, I am more of like, hey, I earn these points, so I'm sitting up front. You're traveling for free and you have no other worries in this world. And so you can slum it in premium economy to Japan.
They're going to be fine. Yeah, they're going to have some important life experiences back in
I'm
premium
looking
economy.
forward to the day when I can leave my kids back there. I think we're getting close. My oldest is almost 14, but my youngest is 5. I can't leave him with a 5-year-old, so not quite there yet. I'm a little jealous of Jess, though.
That's awesome. Good strategies to note as I move forward. I was thinking you guys would probably just have the argument of who's more tired, who had the worst night's sleep, and just do that. That's
your life.
That's my battle in my house right now.
I remember those days, yeah.
Yeah, us being performatively tired around each other to see who gets the most sympathy that day. Okay, so what other strategies, what other tools are you using to get the best redemptions as a traveling family?
Do you want to know my little trick? It's pretty niche, but I will say, Gunnar, this could come in handy for you. Back to Gunnar's therapy session.
This would be such a bad podcast if you said, "Do you want to know my trick? It's really niche," and we'd be like, "Nah, we're good. Move on."
Nah, we don't care. If I don't know how many kids you're planning on having, maybe you don't even know yet, but if you get to the point where you can't all fit in one hotel room, that's when you invite the grandparents along. My parents come on so many of our trips, and then I only have to book 1 room for our family of 6, and we put 2 in with my parents. It is a huge point saver, but that's a great perk. But the second thing is my kids love it. My parents love it. And if we plan a trip without my parents, my kids are like, "Well, why aren't grandma and grandpa coming? Like, why didn't you invite them?" They get so mad about it. My mom actually gets mad. We share our calendars with each other, the 3 of us, of like when we're traveling. My mom will say, "Hey, I see you guys are going on a trip. Why didn't you let me know about this?" So they just know they have a standing open invitation to travel with us. But it's pretty cool because we run into people from our community who follow us and listen to our show, and they will say, "Hey, we're here with my parents. We invited the grandparents too." And it's kind of become this thing where people are inviting their grandparent or their parents to come hang out with the grandkids and stretching their points a little further while building great memories with their family. So I think that's pretty cool.
That's a good tip. We're actually bringing my in-laws to Finland with us later this month. And Rick and Chris, I know you're listening. You guys are not perks. You're not a strategy. I love you for who you are. But we are so grateful that you're coming.
And you get some babysitting. So
that's right.
It's pretty nice. If you guys want to go out to a nice dinner, grandma and grandpa are there.
That's fantastic.
I think for me, so we don't have that perk, unfortunately. And like Alex said, there are 6 of us. And my stepkids are older. And so we're sort of past the point of all being in one hotel room. Even if we were to stay somewhere like a Hyatt place that sleeps 6, I do not want to share one bathroom with 6 other adult-sized people. And so we're past the point of even that. I will say, though, that it's a lot more for me now about following the deal versus the destination. So like I said, with the Southwest Companion Pass, we're going somewhere that Southwest flies so that we can get 2 flights free. Another thing that I think when Chase debuted their points boost feature, a lot of people in the points and miles were grumbling about that. We, from a family perspective, have actually found some really incredible deals on hotels through Points Boost. And so, like, for example, this Costa Rica trip that I'm going to book, I found a hotel that is on Points Boost for 2 cents per point, and they have rooms that sleep 6, and they're like huge suites with like multiple bedrooms and multiple bathrooms. And so being able to get something like that for 2 cents per point to where we can all be together but still have our space is really great for family travel.
That's awesome. That's a great testament to the points boost. We mined it a little bit, and I don't know how much value you found in it, Kyle, but like on its face, it didn't totally look like it was going to be that helpful. And like you said, maybe we were part of the grumblers out there. But that's a really good tip and a good way to think about it too.
It was not something cold that week when it debuted, so we didn't grumble maybe as much as we wanted to. No, but that's a great point of like looking past whatever the initial headlines or what the initial take is on social media and being like, does this work for me? Because, just to your point, for you and your family, the answer could very well be yes, even though for Gunnar and I and Alex and Pam and others, the answer might have been no.
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen, just the other day I was looking at it, and one hotel we love for families is the Hyatt Regency Huntington Beach. And I saw it on Points Boost as part of the edit, and it was fewer points than if you booked directly through Hyatt. So it was pretty cool. So especially for someone who doesn't have status, then you get breakfast for 2, you get $100 property credit. Works out really nice for some people. I mean, it's not the easiest to search and find those, but when you stumble upon those, you can find some really good little golden nuggets in there.
That's awesome. Okay, I want to ask you both about a favorite trip. Maybe one each. A favorite family trip that you keep coming back to as a real points and miles victory for you as a family.
Well, my kids would say their favorite trip was the Hyatt Ziva Cancun. They're obsessed with that property, but when Hyatt moved that up to what is it, a category D? Or EF? I don't even know how many.
Yeah.
It's like an X now. Category X. Yeah, it's crazy. So not the best deal anymore, but I will say that was one of their favorite things. My family's go-to is Hawaii. We love Hawaii. We go almost every year. I think last year we went twice. So that's the hot spot for us. We love the Hyatt Regency for families in Maui, the Grand Hyatt Kauai. Those are great. The Andaz is really nice, but the rooms are pretty small. The bathrooms are really small. Not the best option if you have a bigger family. Like if you've got 1 or 2 and they're young kids, it would be great. But yeah, Hyatt Regency Maui and Grand Hyatt Kauai, those are like top of the list for my family of where we're going to use our points.
Okay, selfish question before Jess shares hers.
Yeah.
I have some friends who are bringing their soon-to-be 2-year-old to the Grand Hyatt Kauai in a couple of months. What's 1 or 2 things they should be sure to do there?
Ooh, what'd you say, a 2-year-old?
Yeah, she'll be 2 by the time they go.
Just hang out in the lagoon. The lagoon is the spot to be because it's like walk-in entry. What do they call that? Where it's just,
zero depth entry or something.
Yeah. The lagoon. Just hang out at the lagoon. That's where you're going to want to be.
I think
Callie Miles, you heard it.
I think go to Poipu Beach, which is just like 5 minutes down the road. See the sea turtles. Get a puka dog across the street. There's a playground at Poipu Beach too for kids to play on, and so it's like you got the turtles, you got the water, you got the playground, you got your puka dog. Like that's all you really need.
Jess, can I tell you something? I think about the puka dog on Poipu Beach at least once a week. I have like just ranted at people about how amazing the puka dog is, and they're like, it's just a hot dog, and then they actually go and they're like, oh my god, the puka dog.
And it's pretty inexpensive by Kauai price standards, and so you're getting a good deal.
Have
Yes.
you guys been to the grocery store down there? It's like this little tiny grocery store. I can't remember the name of it, but in the back they have a juice shop and they make acai bowls. I think it's called Aneki's. I'm not exactly sure the name, but it's something like that. It is like I dream of the acai bowls there. So look that up. I can send you the name later. You can put it in the show notes if you need to, but it is good. You need to go there.
Amazing. All right.
We'll follow up on that for sure.
Yeah.
Jess, what any trip that stands out to you? Big family trip?
I'll do so we are in Houston, and so there's a couple of Hyatts near us, like close enough for us to drive. The Hyatt Regency Lost Pines, which is outside of Austin, and then the Hyatt Regency Hill Country, which is outside of San Antonio. Those are our favorite, like quick weekend getaway, staycation type stays. Amazing for families. If you are in Texas or want to fly to Texas, Alex and her family actually met us at the Hyatt Lost Pines, and we had a little family trip together. But as far as big trips go, Japan is still our family's number one. We actually flew, like I said, my husband and I were in first class, but coming home, all four of us were in business class thanks to a Thrifty Traveler email. And so, all four of us in business class from Tokyo to San Francisco. And then we stayed at the Hyatt House Tokyo Shibuya, which is one of the newer Hyatt properties in Tokyo. Their standard suites actually sleep 4. There are washer and dryers in every single room. And so that comes in clutch with a family to have a washer and dryer in your hotel room. And then we took the train to Kyoto and we stayed at the Hyatt Place Kyoto there. And it was just an incredible trip. And we literally spent $60 in taxes on our flights. And our hotels were $0 with Hyatt points. And so it was just an incredible trip.
Oh, outstanding. I love to hear it. The washer dryer in every unit of the Hyatt House in Shibuya is wild. I've never heard of that. And that's, especially if your team carry on, essential.
Yeah. One of the last trips my wife and I took, we were at the St. Regis in Istanbul, and I think we spent $100 on doing like a couple of items of laundry that we just needed before we flew on to our next stop. So washer and dryer in the room. Yes.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Okay, I want to pivot. My last question for you both is going to be this very selfish personal exercise. So I'm going to Finland with my infant and my wife and my in-laws in just a matter of days here. So I'm going to Europe for the first time with a very young child. What am I not thinking about that I need to know? What's going to be harder than I think it is? Or maybe what's not going to be as hard as I think it's going to be. Help me out here. What am I thinking of? What am I not thinking of?
You need to lay down on the couch for this answer, like in the therapist's room.
All right, I think something that people forget. They will pack all the things for the baby. They're like, okay, we got the toys, we got the snacks, we've got the bottle, we got the binky, all of the things, blankets, change of clothes, a jillion diapers, all the wipes. They don't bring extra clothes for themselves. And we have been in that situation where your infant maybe has an accident on you. And so, just bring yourself some extra clothes too. You guys need to be prepared for a change of clothes.
That's a really important tip. That's a good thing to have in the bag. Anything else jump to mind, Jess?
So I think you said she's 6 months old. So props for a great choice in age because she's not mobile yet, I assume.
Yes.
Because I swear to you, between like 10 months and a year and a half is the worst time to travel because they're mobile and they don't want to sit still, but they're not entertained by screens yet. And so it's just like mayhem. So I do think 6 months is a great choice for the age. One thing that I find helpful is if you have any sort of bedtime routine at home, like you put her in her onesie, you read her a book, you give her bottle, whatever it is. If it's an overnight flight, which I assume it is, do your routine on the plane. So bring the onesie, take her to the bathroom, put it on the plane, read her book, like just pretend like you are at home, keep that same routine going. And hopefully that'll be a signal to her like, okay, it's time to go to bed and sleep for the night. The other thing is my child did not sleep through the night until she was 13 months old. So I completely empathize if you're like freaking out that she may not sleep. I just tell myself I would rather be sleep deprived in Finland than in my house. And so if I'm going to be tired, at least I'm going to have some beautiful scenery to look at. That's just what I would tell myself.
That's an incredible tip. We have been told that, and we wanted to make sure that we're still a family that does things, and we're still a family that travels when we started a family. But yeah, that's exactly the point. If I'm gonna be sleep deprived, I'd rather do it under the Northern Lights in Finland. So
exactly.
Those are both great tips. Thank you so much. Can you guys stick around and help us with a listener question?
Yeah.
Okay. Before we get started with some listener questions, I wanted to again call out for some voicemails from the listeners. We're doing a holiday episode and we want to hear about your year in travel. So if you booked something that you want to brag about, if you have a trip coming up in the new year, if you have a question for us, go to thriftytraveler.com/voicemail or find the link in the show notes and leave us a message under 1 minute. That's thriftytraveler.com/voicemail to leave us a message. We cannot wait to hear from you all. Okay, our listener question this week is from Miken. Recently, Capital One came out with their new rules about receiving sign-up bonuses on the Venture cards and released their awesome elevated offers for the Venture X cards. Miken says, I don't have any Venture cards. For someone like me, I'm wondering what a good course of action would be. Should I skip the current elevated offer on the Venture X card and apply for the more basic Venture card, eventually moving up to the Venture X, though it would probably no longer have the same elevated sign-up bonus? So what do we think? Should Miken start at the bottom here with the Venture and skip this 100K Venture X offer, or should they just go for the points on the Venture X and have to miss out on the Venture offer going forward? What do you think, Kyle?
Well, I can tell Alex has some thoughts, so I think we open it up to her.
All right, go Alex.
How could you tell? Well, I'm curious what you all think. My thought would be to go for the Venture X, but based off personal experience. So I have the Venture X. I haven't been approved for a Venture card. I think Capital One's really quirky with approvals. And if I'm going to have one, I'd rather have the Venture X than the Venture card. So I'd go for Venture X. And odds are, if it was my luck, I probably wouldn't even get approved for the Venture card for 48 months anyways. And so that's what I would do.
Alex says take the points. What do you think,
Take the
Kyle?
points.
I think on paper, Capital One has these rules that allows you to move from the Venture card to the Venture X and get bonuses on both. But in practice, I think it's really hit or miss whether you would actually be able to do both, because Capital One is so secretive and restrictive with who they actually approve for these cards that you can't bank on getting two of them and earning bonuses on both. So yeah, to Alex's point, take the points, take the bigger bonus while you can, get the card that you feel like you're going to get and use not just for the points, but also for the perks as well. Jess, what did I miss?
I'm kind of torn on this one. I agree with you. I think that, Capital One hasn't had this 100,000 point offer since the Venture X came out 4 years ago. At the same time, the spend is $10,000 in 6 months versus $4,000 in 3 months on the 75K offer. And so I do think I wish that spend wasn't as high. I get that they're giving you 6 months instead of 3, which is great, but I still think, if you spent $10,000 on the Venture, that would be, 20,000 points because you get 2x on every purchase. And then you're getting the 75,000 point welcome offer. So you're going to get 95,000 points. I don't know. I go back and forth. I'm like Alex, like I've already opened the Venture X, so I can't get the Venture for 48 months. I'm kind of locked out of it, but I can see the appeal of going in order for the lower, to start out with a card with a lower annual fee and a lower minimum spend.
Yeah, that's a good point. That $10,000 is definitely a little bit eye-popping. Well, now that I've child in daycare. It's not at all, actually. So it's a few days work.
Easy to meet minimum spend when you're a family, right?
That's right. So, all right, Mike, and I think we gave you some good advice there to consider. If you want us to answer your questions on the podcast, or if you have any feedback, hit us up at podcast@thriftytraveler.com, and we might feature your question in next week's show. All right, to close the show, we have our usual on-the-spot question, but we sent it to Alex and Jess and want them to put us on the spot. So, what do you have?
Okay, this is actually a question I've asked on Instagram before. I'm hoping you haven't gotten this question before, and there are so many big feelings about this question. So, if you could either, for the rest of your life, if you could either redeem points and miles for flights or hotels, which one are you choosing?
That's really easy for me. It's flights. I really like nice hotels. I like saving on lodging. It's great. But flights get you somewhere new. And hotels, I mean, some of the best trips that my wife and I have taken have involved staying in a small studio Airbnb or a literal crappy roadside motel, and that didn't change our experience one iota. So being able to take the flight to get to an entirely different continent, and then if that means we have to rough it or spend money in order to stay in that destination, that is an easy choice.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think that obviously online, the probably cents per point people out there are probably going to argue for hotels in a lot of cases, just because the highest end hotels are so expensive. But I would agree. I use most of my points for flights now. It's just how I prefer to book that mode of travel, and I just I get the most value out of flights still today. Can I flip it back on you both? What do you think?
For me, it's so funny because it's easily hotels. But my thing is like, I'm only on a plane for, even if I go international, I'm on a plane for like 8 hours, 10 hours. I can use my Thrifty Traveler emails to get a cheap cash fare on a flight, and then literally luxury hotels are part of the experience for me. Like, they are part of the trip. And so being able to stay in these, like, I stayed at the Park Hyatt Sydney and like walked out on my balcony and had a view of the Sydney Opera House, that was 100% part of my experience in Australia when I could have never afforded that room on cash. And so I'm going to go with hotels.
Nice. Alex?
Yeah, Jess took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say the exact same thing. Using Thrifty Traveler to help me find cash deals, the hotel is the trip. Like, I get what you're saying. Like, with certain destinations, you're not really in your hotel. But I'm not that person. You see like those reels and TikToks where it's like, oh, the people who say the hotel's not part of the trip, like, that is me. The hotel is part of the trip. And I just feel like points and miles have made me kind of a hotel snob. And so, like, I hate to admit it, but it's true. If I have to stay in a place that's not very nice, I'm kind of like, oh, this stinks. Like, I want to go stay somewhere nice. So yeah, I'm with Jess on this one.
I'm honestly really glad that we're divided, because I think it goes to show what we tried to do on this show and on our site and in our service, and what I think you guys try to do too, is not tell people what they need to do in order to use points and miles right, but to show them how to do it so that they can make the right choices for their families, for their trips, for what they want to do.
Yeah, no, you do you is one of our biggest sayings that, I'm just like, there's no one right way to travel on points and miles. There's no one right way to redeem your points and miles. Every family has different goals, and so you just have to do what's right for your family.
Well, Jess and Alex, we love your perspective. It's been really, really fun to have you on, and I want to thank you so much for joining the show. Where can our listeners find you and the Points Talk Squad?
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram at Points Talk Squad. Website is pointstalksquad.com. And then our podcast is Points Talk. Yeah. Awesome. Did I miss anything, Jess? Is that it? I think that's it.
I think you got it all.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. And thank you all for listening to the Thrifty Traveler podcast. If you could rate us 5 stars on your podcast platform of choice and like and subscribe to the show on YouTube. Also, send this episode to someone you know who needs some tips on booking a family vacation. And don't send it to me. I hosted the show. If you have feedback for us, just send me a note at podcast@thriftytraveler.com. We would love to hear from you there. Kyle, tell us about the TT podcast team.
Yeah, this episode was produced by someone who is now far better equipped for a family trip to Finland with a 6-month-old, Gunnar Olsen. It was produced and edited by Sylvia Thomas and edited by Kyle Thomas. Our theme music is by Benjamin Tissot. See you next week.
See ya.